Ratliff, the Director of Early Learning Programs, that all you teachers are awesome. And thank you for everything you do for the children.
Hello, teachers. My name is Delia Gomez, and I'm Director of Educational Services. I want to wish you a very special Teacher Appreciation Week. Thank you for everything that you do for our students and our community. I'd like to read you a quick poem, A Toast to Teachers. We raise our glasses in praise of your classes and all the grand teaching you do. May your joys be great in all you create. Thank you, teachers, and cheers to you. Again, we truly appreciate all of your dedication and your hard work. Thank you, and happy Teacher Appreciation Week.
Good morning, Maestros de Lizal. Feliz Día del Maestro. You are the world's greatest quarantine teacher. Did you hear about the rose that grew from a crack in the concrete? Proving nature's law is wrong, it learned to walk without having feet. Funny it seems, but by keeping its streams, it learned to breathe fresh air. Thank you for believing in our LSL kids. Thank you for believing in yourself and making the last 8 weeks a success. The influence of a good teacher can never be erased. Senora Fraser. This is Monica Anso. Thanking you. Thank you. You are appreciated.
So, as the last director to speak on this, I think I want to say from George, Celia, and myself that we want to ask you if you realize how much you've grown. I know this has been hard. I know it has been painful. My stepdad used to say that's why they're called growing pains. But I think that every single one of you has grown in just such amazing ways. The sets of skills that you've acquired that maybe we wish we didn't have to acquire, or maybe we hate the circumstances under which they were acquired, but you have acquired them. You've grown and you've done it to serve our students. I don't think once has, well, I'm sure it's happened once, but not very often have any of you vented your frustration directly at us, or I don't recall any of us feeling blamed that it's our fault that any of this is happening. And I know that seems like a rational thing, but these can be emotionally trying times, and humans get like that. So you guys have withstood this challenge with amazing patience and fortitude, and every day I am so proud to serve the LSL and to support the teachers in this community. And I say this all the time, and I hope you understand that we are leaders. I don't know of another school district who was as quickly to jump into instruction as we were. And you can say, well, we weren't ready, but the feeling of readiness is a difficult thing. You can always feel like there's one more thing or 10 more things you can do to get ready. But we started serving the students of our community quite rapidly, and I think we did a really great job. And I know that people are looking to us and asking how we did it, and how we did it was, yes, a team effort, but it's because our teachers just forged ahead. So thank you so much. We appreciate all you've done to grow as professionals, all you've done for your students, and when I see how you guys collaborate and work with each other, all that you do there is just amazing. So congratulations, happy Teacher Appreciation Week, and adelante, onward and upward. As per usual, remoteinstruction.org is there to help you go back and look at things. In response to the second round of needs assessment, we paused Livestream PD last Friday, and looking forward in our planning, we're going to continue to solidify skills and tools and strategies that we've already presented. I think Jamboard will probably be the last new tool, and honestly, we're introducing this tool because of some of the requests that we've gotten for functionality, and we think that this might be a puzzle piece that will really help a lot of you. Again, that video hub that Ms. Anso commissioned and was put together from principals and directors and leaders all over the district will be posted to remoteinstruction.org later today. As we say every week that we're on, if you need any support, please email edtech@alisal.org. That goes to all three of us. Instead of, if you just email one of us, it could get stuck in what I call email limbo, where we can't look at email at the time, we're working on something else, we're in meetings. So it goes to the whole department, everyone will see it. And then also, if you notice the EdTech Weekly, there was a link. George and Celia, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. are doing open office hours on Google Meet. And every time I think they're out there talking to each other or themselves, they're helping one of you. So it really does work. And the link to that can be found in the email for the EdTech Weekly. We don't post it on the web, so we don't get any crashers who have no business being there, just like the best practices we said to you guys about when we first started using Google Meet. So I don't know that we need a 10-minute break because it's only been 10 minutes since we started. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into Jamboard. So it's this great collaborative and interactive whiteboard tool. It is so much fun. Some of the ETLs are actually joining us in studio today for a demonstration. Some of them have been using it with their kids, and we just find that the engagement is high, and it really is serving a missing piece of functionality that some of you have said you needed, and we think we got it. So whenever you guys are ready, George and Celia, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm going to get us started. If you want a copy of the slides that we're using right now, we're going to go to this bit.ly down here, bit.ly/LSL Jamboard. Make sure the A and the J are capitalized so you can get on here. I'm just going to look through. A lot of the things that we're going to do are going to be live demonstrations, but we also made sure to diagram out some things that might be helpful to look back at. And there are going to be some resource links toward the end. So if you get on this link, then you will have access to those resources and those links so that you can go back and look at them later. So I'm going to take just another maybe 5 seconds to make sure people are on here. bit.ly/LSL Jamboard, LSL capitalized, Jamboard capitalized. Okay, make sure you let us know if you need that link. We can always go back to it. But here are our objectives for today. So we're going to start with the why we're bringing this tool to our Livestream PD. We will do a little bit of demonstration with our ETLs this morning. And quickly go over the interface for the actual program. We will talk about some application examples and ways that you can use Jamboard with your students. We'll get you some ideas and suggestions, resources, and then we aren't anticipating this to go very long, and so we're going to hold the Q&A probably until the end. If there's anything that you do end up having, you can send it in for sure, and we can take it as we go, but we will have that dedicated time at the end. So those are our objectives.
Just a quick thing, a quick comment, because we don't feel that this PD will be that long. We probably will not be breaking we'll stopping for a break, but we'll see how that goes in case we need to do that. We'll play it by ear.
For sure. Well, yeah, if we need to, we can definitely do that. So like I said, starting with the why. When we thought of the why, there were a couple things that came to mind. So like Josh mentioned, we really think that Jamboard can fill a need that we have right now, that we've heard a lot of teachers say that we want this. And so it's a tool that can be used for both synchronous and asynchronous teaching and learning. And so if you do things with your class live, what we've seen some teachers do is use their teacher magic to come up with some way to have a whiteboard. So I know some teachers have used their like a physical like slate and whiteboard. Some people have used like an actual maybe like physical whiteboard or like a large chart paper, and then they'll use their camera to like angle it up to the paper. But so just this is just another option to not have to deal with all of that. And so if you do any live synchronous teaching, then you can pull one of these up. And here, even in this little example that we have here, if I were trying to demonstrate and model this multiplication problem, then I can do this on a Jamboard live. And so I can demonstrate as the teacher, this is the way, these are the steps, like this is the direct instruction using this tool. But it can also be used asynchronously. So like the same idea for either something that's teacher-led, or you can have students go into a Jamboard and do the work. So either way, the tool would fit both needs. And I think Josh also mentioned that we are listening and we're trying to fill the needs that we've heard. And the majority of what we heard from the EdTech needs assessment was that people were looking for some kind of option for a digital whiteboard. And so we thought we would make sure that this was our next PD.
And connected to that, Celia, I think part of that came out of the needs assessment was that not only did you want some kind of whiteboard solution, but you wanted a collaborative tool. And this is, since it's a tool, it definitely allows for collaboration. You'll see how that works in a little bit.
For sure. Here are just a couple of examples before we're going to switch it over to our ETL so you can see kind of live what it looks like. But here are some examples. Shout out to Susan Stewart who gave us these examples. But I know a lot of or maybe all of them, or even most, maybe all of the coaches have also received training on Jamboard, and so they can also offer some support there. But in this example, we have some sorting activities with either numbers. If you do any kind of agenda, you can set up your agenda on a Jamboard. You can do like word building and word sorts, like this example. And if anybody knows the like which one doesn't belong activities, like this would also be another way to get students engaged in that, in some kind of collaborative discussion, and they can do that all from this interactive whiteboard. So here are some quick examples. But I think now it's good to, just get kind of a quick snapshot of what some examples could be like. But I'm actually going to send the ETLs a link. And so we will get into how you can share your jams with your students a little bit later. But right now, I just wanted to demonstrate what it would be like for the teacher. And I think maybe right now for the teacher, if I were to send this out. And so I actually have a demo already. And so I'm going to.
We've gotten a few, questions from some of you about the link. Can you show the link one more time? I've gotten about 3 requests for it. One more time.
Oh, sure, yeah. So while the ETLs get onto that demo jam, I'm going to go back up to the link.
Thank you. It was like 3.
So if you're in an ETL, if you can just jump, I put it in the chat link. And so if you can just jump on. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go into the jam now. And so this is the jam that I've made for demonstration purposes. And so me as a teacher, I have it open. And if you can see right here in the middle, it's actually telling me when my students, quote unquote, are joining. So it'll tell me these are some of the ETLs that are helping us out. this person is joining, this person is joining. Just like all the other Google tools, it also gives us, right, that list over here of the students who are in. So if you want to know the total, if you don't want to know who's in your document, you have it there. This is what it looks like. And so for this first example, I actually just want the ETLs to just maybe give us some writing on here. And so if I wanted to have all of my students collaborate and just write on this whiteboard together, can I ask the ETLs to do that? So you're going to go up to the pen. And
Hey,
so if
sorry,
I were
sorry
to,
for interrupting. It's sorry, Celia. It's on view only.
no, it's under edit. Anyone?
I just fixed it.
Oh,
I just fixed
got it. Refresh. We'll talk about the actual interface and what the tools look like. But one of the strengths of Jamboard is its simplicity to use. And so the tools are over here on the left, which we'll cover. And once the students are writing on here, again, this is collaborative. And so if you can look at my screen right now, I have a whole bunch of students writing at the same time. They're editing the same document real time. I see it as a teacher. If one student erases something from their board, then it's going to erase it from everybody. Again, it's the same way that if I had like shared a Google Doc, one Google Doc, so that all of my students can edit it together, that's the same thing that's happening here, right? So we're all on the same Jamboard and we're all just writing with different things. Oh, look, somebody is using the highlighter, I think. Looks like. Awesome. So you get an idea of what that looks like. I'm actually going to ask everybody to switch over to the second frame. So the second frame looks like this. And so frames are just like pages, again, which we'll describe a little bit later in the interface. But here's my question. So I want you to pick either which animal you prefer. So if you're voting for your favorite, I want you to add your name with a sticky note and place it over which one is your favorite. I do want to call attention to the fact that when your students are adding their Post-it notes, they get stacked on top of each other. So I just zoomed in right here because this is Isabel's Post-it note. If she moves it out of the way, now I see Alyssa's, now I see Laura's. So by default, the sticky notes, when students add them, will be layered on top of each other. That just goes to say that you're going to need to train your students that that's going to happen. And so as soon as they get their Post-it notes in, they need to move it out of the way so that other people can get theirs. Otherwise, it could end up creating some confusion. They're like, wait, where did my Post-it note go? But so this is one way you could do, right? As a teacher, I can set up images and then the students would add their Post-it note and then vote with their Post-it note, for example. We're going to switch over to frame number 3. Oh, someone's moving my images, which is another good point. So if the students end up moving your images and they move this little cat a little bit, it's going to move it for everybody, right? And so again, it's just one of those things that you need to keep in mind because this is a collaborative document. So I'm going to move my doc back a little bit. Oh, Josh is doing that for me. Thanks. Oh, nope. Okay, we're going to go into the next frame. And I want to offer this as a solution to the idea that those Post-it notes get stacked on top of each other when students add their name. So instead of doing that, especially in the lower grades, I think I would probably recommend that you have the Post-it notes with students' names already present. And so I know that not everybody's names are on here, ETLs, but you can go into one of the ones that's already there and change it, which I think might be what Ben did. But again, the idea here is just that as the teacher, if I add some structure to this, then I don't have to worry about students stacking on top of each other or saying, a kindergartner student saying, I don't see my Post-it note. So if you just train them that I'm always going to have up here at the top and on the bottom or the side, I'm going to have your name already there. Just find your name and drag the Post-it note to where you want. So that's just kind of a workaround that you might want, especially in the lower grades.
I just wanted to add to you that that a couple of you have asked.
Are you muted?
I think it's a good question. What is an ETL?
You're
It's an
muted?
EdTech Liaison. I'm using your microphone, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so an ETL is an EdTech Liaison. All the sites have at least one. Some sites have two. So yeah, for those of you, we just threw another acronym at you and we assumed you might know who that is. But yeah, find them. They should be the first line of defense with regards to educational technology at your site. So yeah, ETL, EdTech Liaison.
And remember,
Sorry, I hope everybody got that.
remember that
Sorry,
they
Jeff.
are fellow teachers. They are classroom teachers. This is not an additional position. Anybody who's been hosting or leading tech clubs at your site, that's your ETL.
Looks like most of the ETLs are opting for the dogs. I'd probably put myself over there too, actually. Let's do that. Why not? Okay, I'm going to move on to the next frame to demonstrate that even though I can have each student participate on the jam itself, if we go over to frame number 4, ETLs, I could also do something like this where the task is sorting in this case. So maybe I can have, who should I ask? Who are my students in here? George, I pick you.
Because I was messing with that 5, huh?
Yep. So maybe this is just an example of a sorting activity that you could have. And so again, everybody has editing rights to this, and all of the students are watching this, but you could also direct students to just manipulate one at a time. And so maybe I direct my student George, I need you to put these numbers in order from greatest to least, left to right. Can you do that now? Right? And so I, as a teacher, can give direction to one of my students to do the manipulation while the rest of the students watch, and then we can discuss, like, how many of us agree with George's work? Would you do it differently? He is now taking, oh, perfect, I love it. Creative liberty and even labeling. Oh, I was thinking of the first row, but I agree, Ben. I completely agree. So again, this is just an example of we can have everybody on here at once, but me as a teacher can give directions to just one student and then we can discuss together. Last example is we thought of like, maybe we can also do like group work. And so I could have this prepared as the teacher. So I have an image here, and then we have 5 different options for the water cycle. And so the directions here as a teacher for me would be these 4 people that I've already decided are going to be in a group together, right? I've labeled that so that they know which frame they're working on. I want these 4 people to join this frame. And so maybe I can get Fernando, Lisa, Celeste, and Ben on frame 5. I won't change the names to you, just so we know. Can I get the 4 of you to collectively label that? And then in frame 6, I also have 4 new students. So maybe I can ask Elena, Laura, Alyssa, and Isabel to go to frame 6. And can the 4 of you collaboratively label the parts of the water cycle planes? And so you can see that I can tell who's manipulating what. So Alyssa's got this one, Laura just moved that one. And so I can watch them real time as the teacher. So I can watch what they're doing. And then let me check on this other group. Oh, this other group's not done. Fernando, Lisa, Celeste, Ben, they're still working on it. You can see that Ben has condensation, but maybe he's not sure where it goes. Fernando's working on precipitation. There it goes. Oh, I think maybe we changed the labels on here because you guys have. Ooh, or we had a double one. I think we might have had a double one. That's okay. Yeah. Looks good, looking good. Oh, this group even deleted the duplicate. Oh my gosh, you guys are awesome. So again, this is just another way of showing how you can structure like group work. So we went from an example here where everybody was doing everything on the same one. And then we went to using Post-it notes with everybody. Then an example where we had the Post-it notes already there for students to manipulate. You can also have it where one student is manipulating for everybody as the rest of the class watches. Or you could even set it up as group work. So then we would have, again, either predetermined, or you can do this on the fly and just decide these 4 students are going to work on this frame, and so on and so forth. So really the format of how you use these is really up to you, but it is very versatile. So like depending on what your task is, you might want to structure each of these activities differently. But anyway, a huge thank you to the ETLs. Like George mentioned, they're at each site. They're either instructional coaches or classroom teachers who are there at your site. They've all been through an additional Jamboard training as well. And so they are a wealth of knowledge. But I think with that, we're actually going to, so thank you ETLs so much. I think we were at slide 6. And so now we're going to go into the interface. And so I'm going to pass it off to George, and George is going to explain a little bit in more detail what this looks like.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and a couple of questions. Sorry, I know we said wait to the end, but a couple of really quick questions. A couple of you asked what is the limit of students that can participate? 50. I believe it was 50 participants can be in there at a time. So that's your whole class. So that was one of the questions. Another question that came up was, I use Seesaw, so that means I can't use Jamboard. That is actually incorrect. If you create a Jamboard, you can set the permissions to anybody with a link can edit, and then you would share that link with your students in Seesaw. So you can, that's how they can access it if you want to make that easy. So I hope that was helpful to those of you that asked those questions on there. All right, so let me go ahead and continue here. So you've learned about, why, you've learned about how, you've seen it in action. So the question is, what does the interface look like? How do I use it? So we're going to go ahead and continue with that. So where do you find Jamboard? Just like everything Google, the name of the tool, .google.com, will take you to the landing page for Jamboard. You can also get it from your drive. You will have to go ahead and go into your drive. You want to make sure you click more. And then when you see more, you should see Jamboard under the more options on there. And finally, you can always get it from the Waffle. You might have to scroll down a little bit more to find it, but you can get it from the Waffle as one of the Google apps for education. So there you go. Those are 3 places where you can get, how you can get to Jamboard. So this is the landing page. And when you get to the landing page, you will probably not have anything here. So to add a new jam, that's what each one of these is called. You press the little add button, the little plus button here to add a new jam. And here are some of the basic features on here. Just like Google has a lot of tools on here. You can filter by, the owner. You can refresh it because perhaps new jams haven't shown up on your screen. You can sort them by different ways if you click on this icon. And then you also have some other options on here. So you have a lot of these options on there. Now, what I wanted to share with you is that Jamboard is actually a piece of equipment that's pretty expensive, and we are not actually using the equipment Jamboard. We are just using the software. So just, be aware of that. Some of you may go in to research what a Jamboard is, maybe get additional details, and you might see this piece of equipment. We are not using that piece of equipment. We are just using the software part of it. So I wanted to share that with you. I noticed that you also have additional tools on here. Always, whenever you see 3 dots in anything you're using online, click on it to see what the options are. And here you can rename them. You can download them as a PDF, or you can remove them. So again, anytime you see the 3 dots, just like up here, take a look, click on those to see what those options are for you. So that is the landing page. Once you click the plus here to start a new jam, you will get something that looks like this. So it's the interface is pretty clean, and that's on purpose, just to make sure that there's no distractions. The students can focus on the work that needs to happen, and and it keeps the application very light, so collaboration can happen more quickly without a lot of graphics and things coming in. So it is done on purpose. So the first thing you want to do, just like any Google Doc, you want to go ahead and name it. Very important that you share with your students that the redo and undo button, very important, because they will be collaborating and stepping on each other's toes. And if they make a mistake, move a picture, delete somebody's, work, they can undo it. So make sure, you put some expectations in classroom management as you introduce this tool. You can change the background. The backgrounds are very simple. We'll share some of those a little bit later on, but they're very, it's purposely done. If you want to erase the frame, you click here and it clears everything you have on there. So be careful, because I've done that where I'm almost done with the jam, and then I hit that just see what it did and erase it all. Of course, the undo button is your friend there. On the left-hand side here, you will see some of the tools. And when you click here, you'll have options to a pen, highlighter, marker, and a brush. A little quick tip that Claudia does, Claudia, whoops, an inside joke here, that Celia discovered was that actually, if you want to highlight something, and we'll share that a little bit later, the brush works better than the highlighter. So just be aware of that. All right, do you have an eraser here? This right here, select. So this is earlier, if when the post-its were pasted, if the students want to move them around, this is how they would click there and then drag them around. If the students want to add a new sticky note, or you want to add a sticky note, this is what you would click. You can add images. You saw earlier, I believe it was Ben that added his little Kinder Rockets persona in there. So you can add images in here as part of it. And then you have a laser pointer, pretty cool little laser pointer on it that I'm sure your kids are going to love. Celia will add something about the laser pointer.
No, actually, I was going to mention the image. We've had some teachers bring up the wanting to annotate. And so you can also, if you bring in either an image or a screenshot through that button that George just mentioned, you can annotate on top of it. So you can add an image and then with a pen, annotate on top of it. So I know some teachers were like wanting that as an option. And so if you were thinking of that as an option, you can do that with Jamboard.
So you don't get an echo. All right. So this is, again, these are the basic tools, not a lot of tools. And again, I apologize because my mouse is just not operating with me here. Here are the tools on here. And up here again, you have the three dots on it, which give you some of the options that you saw in the landing page.
The snowman.
Yeah, the snowman, right? That's what Celia and some people call it, not me, but that's beside the point. So anyway, as Celia talked earlier, this is called a frame, and right now my jam has one frame in it. So if I press this arrow here, it allows me to add additional frames. So that's how you add additional frames, is by clicking this arrow to the right of this frame. Okay, so arrows back here. So that is the basics, I guess, user interface for Jamboard. Now, here are, once you start getting people in here, you saw what Celia showed earlier. You can take a look at, if you click up here at the top, it will show up if you have any collaborators or viewers that are working on it. So earlier you saw Celia Celia go through there and show you the different people that were in here. Other things that you can do is, if you want to scroll, once you've added more than one frame on here, if you want to scroll between the frames, you can go to the left or to the right here. If you want to add note that if you want to add a frame, once you add the second one, you will see this little plus icon. So you can actually add frames in between frames by clicking the little blue plus in the middle. And you can also duplicate a frame. So if it's something maybe that you're breaking up into 6 groups, you can actually you have a template on there. You can duplicate it 6 times, and then you can assign it to the different groups that you're creating. And you can also delete it from here also. This is the only place where you can delete the actual frame in a jam. So you will have to click the 3 dots, and it's not in, when you first see it, you don't know what that is, but click on the 3 dots and you'll see these options here. Let's see here. Those are the basic pieces here once people are working in. But Celia was going to add something.
I'm not sure if you mentioned, but there's a 20 frame limit.
I didn't mention that. That's a good point. Yeah. So again, that might be a question for you. How many pages can I have on my Jam? Up to 20 frames. So or 20 pages. All right. Thank you, Celia. So now, if a student clicks on the sticky note option, like you saw earlier, they do have some options on here. So first of all, they get to choose one of these colors on here, or they can have it transparent, so they can choose the actual color. They start typing. Notice that when they start typing on there, they only have 180 characters, so they really have to be succinct, and they can't be writing paragraphs, a long piece of text on here. That's not the purpose of this tool. 180 characters that they can type in there. And, and then they would go ahead and save it. One of the things that's also important is that you can resize them. You saw earlier in our examples that some of the ETLs were resizing them. Once you go ahead and create them, you can also rotate them. I saw a few ETLs do that, rotate them, in the different directions. So that is what you can do with the sticky note. All right. And how do I share with my students? Well, sure, you can share with the link. Earlier, we shared that link with the ETLs. That's how they were able to come in here. We had changed, actually, after we made the correction, we make sure that if you're sharing with the students and you want them to be able to edit, you have to make sure the settings are correct. Anybody with the link, if you're going to give them the link, anybody with the link can edit, or anybody in LSL can edit. So make sure you have the correct permissions so that they'll be able to work with you. So again, and the share button is always, once you click on share button, you'll get this icon on here to make that change. You want to go ahead and, make the decision. Do you want them to edit or just be able to view? I think we're pretty familiar with the permissions in Google, so we'll continue with that. The other way that you can get these to students is through Google Classroom. You go ahead and create an assignment. Once you create an assignment, you can go ahead and add a Jamboard from your drive on here. So if you click here, you'll be able to add it from your drive. And then once again, you want to make sure that you give them the correct permission. Is this Jamboard for them to be able to just view? Or do you want, we're going to collaborate? If we're going to all collaborate on it, then probably you want them to be able to edit. And if the student's doing their own, they're getting their own Jamboard, their own Jam, then you would just make a copy for each student. So again, we're familiar, if you're using Google Classroom, what those permissions do, and make sure that you have set them correctly. But again, Google Classroom is a great way to to send out a Jamboard to students. Question, Celia?
There actually was a question that came in that asks, can you make the board so that the students cannot write on it while you're teaching? And so I think this goes back to like this page that George is sharing right now, that it really just goes to the permissions that you have on the file. If in the middle of instruction, you decide that you don't want the students to be able to edit anymore, you can go into the permissions to change that. And then if once you're done you writing on it, and now you want the students to go back and edit it, then you can change the permission back.
Okay. Thank you, Celia, for that. All right, back to, all right, so any other questions besides that one, Celia? I know we said wait to the end, but we seem to be moving through this pretty quick, and the questions are pretty easy to answer so far. Okay, we'll go ahead and continue then, and Celia will keep looking at the questions here. All right, so actually what we want to do here is for you to jam with us. So I'm going to hand this over to Celia, and we'll see how this goes, because actually this bit.ly is for all of you. So if you want to make sure, if you want to open up a new tab, type in this bit.ly, you're going to get into our jam, and hopefully you'll be one of the first 50 people, because only 50 are allowed, to jam with us, and we'll kind of go ahead and show you what that looks like. So Celia, I'll go ahead and hand it back over to you.
Awesome. So again, if you go to that link, so again, if you needed that link, let's see, where are we? Jam with us, bit.ly/AUSD capital, and then jam lowercase. You're going to get to a jam that's called LSL Jamboard Examples. And so here, I'm going to pop back to that Jamboard because I can see that some people are already joined. So look at all these people. Oh, yay, they're on top of it. So if you want in, run. because this has a limit of 50 collaborators. It's only going to allow 50 people to get in. And so if you want to try it live with us, please feel free, jump on there. And so we're going to go through the activities together. For everybody who's listening, I can already see some people playing. Who is that that's playing? Just kidding. It's okay to play on the first slide, but I do want to go through some examples. And so if you're interested, join us, bit.ly/AUSD capital and then jam lowercase. And so it'll get you to this jam. And as you can see, again, it's just that now you can play with the tools. We have a jam. I see some people. Oh my gosh, these are so elaborate, man. Oh my god, and this is a lot of people, which I think is great. But
I think it's a bit. I'm just kidding. No,
it's great.
It's a really cool tool. And notice how there's not a lot of lag, and that's because it's a really light tool. So that's done. Options that you can do, but yeah. Talia, I'll let you bring the circus back in.
No, I think we're good. So as you can see, like this is more people than you're probably going to have. So I'm like at 44 right now. So we got space for 6 more people. Again, the link is bit.ly/AUSD jam if you want to be there. But so it is going to have to take some thought. While I love this as an adult, I mean, I think this is great. Look at all the people. Oh my gosh. It's gonna take some thought into how you structure this. I will let you know, I can't remember if George mentioned that, like, although there is an erase button here, there is also up at the top a clear frame entirely. If a student were to click on that to erase the whole thing, it erases it for everybody. You can't undo that. So if I just made a mistake and I'm like, oh, I want it back, I can do that. But if I just want a clean slate, I can clear it for everybody, right? But I have also given everybody editing access. So this is what it would look like. I'm going to switch to the second frame now. I know there might be a little bit of a lag. We've already demonstrated this example, but again, I wanted everybody to try it for themselves. And so I want you all now to go over here on the side, click on the little sticky note, add a sticky note with your name. If you're just joining us, we're on frame number 2. So it looks like some people have already answered, cat or dog. Wondering if I'm having some internet issues because I just got a reconnect prompt. So I apologize if it does look like it's refreshing. I think it was just my internet connection that. Looks like we're good though. So if you can see, this is kind of the issue that I was mentioning before. Everybody who's adding a Post-it note, it's getting stacked here, friends. And so remember that after you type yours in, you're gonna have to move it out the way because now we have all these people right here. Mr. E just put his, but then as soon as someone else puts another one, it's going to stack on top. Again, you're just going to have to keep that in mind when you're working with your students. You can see that you can rotate it like George mentioned, you can change the color. For simplicity's sake, you can't change like the font, for example, or like make it bold or any type of formatting, but it lends to the simplicity of the tool. You can resize. You can see this Post-it note was bigger. You can just drag the corners, make it bigger or smaller. Perfect. Okay, I'm going to go over to frame number 3. And I'm actually going to skip this one because we've already kind of covered it. And so I'm going to go over to frame number 4, just as an example of another application that you can use with the tool. So like maybe I'm using this as a check-in for my students. And so maybe here I ask students to place their name with a sticky note. So they're going to go over here. I'm going to type in my name. There's my sticky note. And then I ask them to move their sticky note to how they're feeling. So this could just be like a morning check-in. It could be an SEL check-in. So they would be posting all that onto the Jamboard.
George Lopez.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm gone for a minute.
I can see that a lot of people, again, like, look at, this is me as a teacher. I'm going to click on the little frame bar up here at the top, right? That shows how many frames I have. It shows, there's a little arrow. If I click on that little arrow, it gives me an outline of my frames. And I know which students are on which frame. And so I can see that I have 23 students who are following my directions and are on frame number 4, but I still have some people on frame 3. I have some people on frame 2. I have a whole lot of people on frame 1 still. So again, as a teacher, I can be able to view where my students are on those frames. So I'm going to click out of that. And I'm going to switch over to frame number 5. So again, this is just another way to maybe troubleshoot. And so if you go to frame number 5, this is still an SEL check-in. How has the week been? How are you feeling? But instead of having students type in their name themselves, I can either type in their names for them like this. Obviously, I don't have all of your names on here because there's 50 of you. So you can go ahead and just click on one of these and erase the name. So like Sam, I'm pretty sure isn't here because Sam lives in another state and she was helping us with our website. So if you would just want to take over one of these Post-it notes, again, just for right now, demonstration purposes, this is just another way of organizing a question, but as a way to avoid the potential problem of having students either stack their Post-it notes on top of each other or just like losing their place. So everybody already has a set place. Again, I apologize for not having your name on here. Who's, just on the fly. Let's see who joins us. There's 50 of you joining us. So, but look, George has answered the question. It's been a lovely week. The weather has been, you know what? It really has. The weather has been awesome. Someone's having a roller coaster week. Okay. Someone's feeling content. Excellent. So again, this is just another example. So I'm going to go ahead to frame number 6. And in frame number 6, I'm going to ask a student to help me with this one again, because this is very similar to how I had George play with the example with the ETLs. So on frame number 6, everybody, I see somebody clicking. I don't want anybody to click on okay, except for George. George is my student. I was about to call the student out. I said, don't move anything, student, but that's okay because it's George. George is going to manipulate the words and create an IG.
Well, so much for just me.
Just once. And again, this is one of those things where it's like, if you do not train your students on how this is, what the purpose is of each slide, then I could have this situation, right? Where I have 1, 2, 3, 4, like maybe 10 people moving the objects at the same time. So that may or may not be what your intent is.
Now, part of it, what could be causing an issue here is that, you are participating and there's a little bit of a lag.
Yeah.
So I think with your students, most of the time you'll be doing, if you're doing this synchronous, it'll be live and there won't be as much lag. Right now, I think between us speaking here and you hearing us is about 20 to 30 seconds, depending on where you're at. So, but with the students, when you actually do a Google Meet call and do this live synchronously, there'll be less lag. So hopefully, you know, it won't be as chaotic and you won't have 50 people in also.
That's true. But yeah, so just for demonstration purposes. So I'm going to switch over to 7, and I'm actually going to skip 7 because we did both 7 and 8 as a demonstration with the ETLs. Again, if you want to do some kind of sorting activity, then this is something that I prepare ahead of time as the teacher. And these are just Post-it notes, right? I make a Post-it note with letters, and then I ask a student or all of my students individually to create words. Here's a little note about when you're creating these. If I were creating these myself, right, I have my frame open, and let me maybe, I'm going to use numbers just so I can show you guys this. If I add the number 1 with a sticky note on it, there it is, right? And then I'm gonna actually do up to 5. So there's number 2, there's number 3, there's number 4, there's number 5. If you notice that when I added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it did not stack. Oh, now I have other people putting things on there. It didn't stack them on top of each other, but what it does do is they stack according to how you place them on the board. And so if you notice that these Post-it notes, the Post-it note that is on top is the 5, because that's the element that I put on last. So if the order matters for the activity that you're doing, if you want, for example, them to sort in ascending or descending order, you don't necessarily want to put them into the jam and onto a Post-it note in order, because then look at how my Post-it notes come up. They are stacked in order because that's how I wrote them in. And so even if I were to like drag these around and I'm like, oh, let's like mix them up, it looks like they're mixed up, but they're actually not. Like as soon as I let that go, the 5 is still on top because that's what I put last. And also another word for ordering. If you do end up doing some kind of sorting activity, or you have a Post-it note or an image, doesn't really matter what, and then you annotate on top of it, either as a student or the teacher, the writing will always be on top of everything. So even if I go back and I add an image, any of this writing that's on top of the image or on top of the Post-it notes, even if I move the Post-it note, the writing still is on top. So it doesn't matter if I move it, it's by default, the writing will always be on top. So again, that's just something in, yeah, that's a really good idea. Whose idea was this? Do you know who that is, George?
I don't know, no.
Okay. But that's a good idea. I could totally go in here and like look who it is, right? I just don't know people's icons, so I'm not sure who it was. But so this idea was about using Google Classroom and like maybe having a frame for each one of the students, numbering them, and then having each student go to a different frame. Perfect. Again, that's just like you're gonna have to think through how you want to organize this. Otherwise, it could create problems. In terms of, I'm getting questions on the jam now, George.
Yeah, no, I have some questions here.
Yeah, we can totally take those. There's no way to lock elements unless the students aren't editing at all, but there's no way to like lock these. Like they're gonna be there. So if you're gonna have editing rights for the students, then they can move it too. But let's take some questions while we're at it.
So a couple of things. Can we clarify, Celia?
Yeah.
Would you mind going back to the slide deck? Because the question was, can I turn off, if I don't want, can I share something with students so they're able to edit the Jamboard? And then when I want them to stop editing, like kind of what was going on during our session here, can I stop that? So yes, you can. We wanted to make sure that I don't think I was clear enough earlier what the question was. Can you go to the previous slide there, Celia? There you go. Keep going, one more back. So what you want to do is you would share it regularly like you do through Google Classroom. So anybody with the, so that the students are able to edit. And then if you want them to because it's getting crazy, you want to stop them from editing, you come into the document. This is the actual document. You see the settings, and you change that, and you want to change that to, you'll see a group. So if it was shared with Google Classroom, a group of your classes, it'll have a group. You'll click on that, and then what you'll do is you'll have it so they can only view, just like you can see Celia. And then now that'll stop from them being able to edit anymore. And when you're ready for them to continue editing, you come back here and change it, letting the students know they need to refresh their Jamboard. Yeah. But I hope that was, that was a little bit more clear. Let's see here, a couple of things on here. One of the questions, can you show them really quickly? How do you add a sticky?
So you're just going to go over here to the left. The tools are over here on the left. And so this little box right here is a sticky note. Yeah. And so you're just going to click on that, and it'll open the sticky note box, and then you can type whatever you need to type in there.
Okay, so there's that one. The other one was, says, can this only be used live? No. As Celia said at the beginning, this can be used synchronously or asynchronously. So it can be used both in both ways on here.
If I'm maybe like demonstrating a math problem, right? Like I had at the very beginning, and I'm doing like multiplication, and I'm using this whiteboard to demonstrate, I could use a tool like Screencastify, right? Which we all have, yay! And then record myself explaining the procedure, explaining the steps. And then that's not going to be synchronous, right? And then I'll have a recording of me doing some kind of demonstration or delivery, direct instruction, but it can be live like we're doing right now. So it could be either or, just again, depending on your intent and activities and things like that.
So this is a question that's related to that a little bit. And the question is, do you have to be in Meet to be able to talk to students? That's correct. Remember, you have to create that connection so that the students are there live with you to talk. So no, Jamboard does not have a built-in Google Meet or some kind of communication tool that is video. I think that's what the question is asking.
Gotcha. So I'm going to go ahead. You can keep looking at the questions if we need to, no problems. I'm actually going to skip ahead to some more examples. I'm going to go into frame number 12. And so if you're following along, and I see a lot of people on frame 9 still. Let's see where people are. A lot of people on frame 6. So go ahead and head over to, which one did I say?
12.
12. This is something that is very open-ended, but again, depending on your purpose, this could work. And so as a teacher, the only thing I did was create 2 categories. And so maybe in this example, I'm asking my students to insert examples of singular and plural nouns. And so if you can all join me on frame number 12, and you can either insert a sticky note with your answer. So like if I add the word children, right, that's a plural noun. And so I'll move it over here. But you can also add images. And so if you're working with maybe kinder students who aren't able to spell a word, they can take something from their drive for their computer. They can do an image search, and maybe they look for a tree, and it would just be better to have that image in there. So it doesn't have to just be Post-it notes. Oh, I see images coming in too. Perfect. It can be images, it can be text, right? It can be all of the above. Oh, someone put in something very big. I think we were resizing. That's okay. So it can be this open-ended, right? Where students are the ones inserting all of the objects into categories, or they're sorting. And even with all that on top, you can still write on top of these and annotate, right? So I can write on top of all these if need be. Wonderful. I'm gonna just let people playing with that. I'm okay with that.
So yeah, I'd just like to point out that I'm sure George's blood pressure is racing right now. Just like all the teachers watching to know that if this chaos is giving you heart palpitations, George Prez is right there with you. This is not his teacher style. Celia and I love this. George, not so much.
I mean, it's demonstration and like these are adults and like it's okay. Like people changing backgrounds I see. And so like for a second it looked totally different. I was like, what happened? But it's just because someone changed their background. I was like, oh, okay. I get it. So I mean, I think this is totally okay. Let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and forward to someone already did this. Oh, who was that? I wonder who it was. Either Blanca, maybe Claudia. Someone did this. So in this example, maybe you're asking students to build patterns, right? You're working on patterns and you want students to build a pattern. And so these images that you see on here, you can just find them on Google search, right? So the way that I did that was I went to inserting an image, add an image right there. And then I'm going to do an image search. And so maybe I want them to use squares to make this pattern. I'm going to search for square. I'm going to go with, I don't like any of these squares. I'm so picky. Oh my gosh. Okay, fine. I'll just go with this one. And so now that I've inserted that square as the teacher, then I can feel like we're having lag issues now because there's so many people on here. But once I've added that, oh goodness, someone's adding the pictures. Okay, no worries. Once you add that first picture, like some people are inserting circles, an easy way to replicate this, because when I first had this set up, I had like a stack of triangles right here, and then I had a stack of circles right here. And so all that I would do is I would go to that first image that I inserted, copy using the shortcut Command C, and then paste Command V. And so if you take a look over here, I'm making identical copies with Command C and Command V, and they're stacked on top of each other so that students can use them. I'm going to go to this circle. I'm going to copy it and just start pasting, pasting, pasting. And so I'm kind of making copies of these images that are now kind of like digital manipulatives, right? Because now that you're on this frame, students can go into these stacks that I made, and then they can build their pattern with these. And so that's all that was. So you can get the shapes from a Google image search under add image.
Celia, may I chime in here?
Sure.
Well, I see that question that you've answered that somebody put in a sticky. So we've got some other questions relating to text. So is it possible into a text box to avoid using the writing tool? And the other one, how do you get the text boxes to not be squares? The only way to put text in on a Jamboard is to use the stickies. But you've seen in a couple of places, well, they're not on stickies. They are, it's just the sticky is transparent, which is a nifty trick to make it look like a quote unquote text box that isn't on a sticky. And then we've had so that is, the strength of Jamboard is its simplicity, right? It can have all these people in it all at the same time, and we can do all this cool stuff. And I love that this tool kind of brings out everybody's inner child. Look at all of you playing with this. This is just amazing to me. But yeah, that's how you do it. There's no separate text box tool. You just use the sticky and you make the sticky transparent. There's a question so you're sharing your own Jamboard as a presentation? Yes, that's exactly how you use this during the meet. You would open up a Jamboard and present your Jamboard to the meet, to the students in the meet.
Any other questions while we're here? I can get to a couple more examples.
There's a
We're
question
almost
that says, how did you get the text boxes to not be squares? I don't.
That's what I was saying, Georgia, but when they're saying they're not squares, if you look at some of Celia's other frames where she just had the names and they didn't appear to be on a square, it's just on a square but transparent background.
There you go. Thank you.
Alrighty. Let me know if there are any more questions. Yes, no problem. I'm going to skip ahead to frame 15. So if I can meet everybody at frame 15. This is just an example. I know somebody in the questions actually earlier asked for an example of how to use a screenshot. And so, or an image. If you were, for example, to go into your Wonders or Maravillas, we have these digital texts, right? And so you could essentially take a screenshot from a decodable or a leveled reader or the main text itself and insert it onto your frame, and then maybe give directions to the students. So here we're going to use a highlighter to mark the sentence that shows that someone is speaking. I do want to call attention to one thing. We've noticed that when students use they're over here on the pen tools, right? If you click on it, you get different options. You get a pen, you get a marker, you get what they call a highlighter, and then you get the paint brush. What we've noticed is that for whatever reason, in our opinion, this is the official EdTech department's stand on the issue, I think if you're going to be making students highlight, if that's the goal, we would probably recommend the paintbrush. So you're going to kind of train your students to use the paintbrush because this first example in gray is what George did, even at this orange one. These were done with a highlighter. We find them to be not transparent enough, let's say. And strangely enough, this one down here under it, that's still a light gray, that's actually the paintbrush. And so it's a small difference, but I would urge you to try both of them. Try the paintbrush, and it's a much more transparent tool that we just thought was better for highlighting.
I've concluded that it's just mislabeled.
Maybe, I mean,
because that looks like a brush, the highlighter, but anyway.
So yeah, try those tools, but this could be an application for students to do some kind of annotation or highlighting with a text. And so again, this text that we have here is just a screenshot. You take the screenshot and then I add the screenshot in through add image. It could, if it's on my desktop, which is where it defaults to, then I would just drag from my desktop into here. And then that screenshot would then be added to my frame, right? So that's, again, just an idea, some ideas for you. I'm actually going to go to our last example before we finish up. And here's an example. I might actually have George explain this one because he made this.
Yeah, so, in our classes before, we've kind of, we've had these activities like 4 corners. So how could you do this digitally here? You would post the question on here, then you could have the 4 different, what the answers would be in the 4 different corners, and the students could put their names on a sticky note and then move to where they want to be. So if they agree, they would create a sticky note and go to agree, disagree, and so forth. And then, this could lead to a discussion. And then after maybe some discussion, see if anybody moves around to the different corners. So I just thought that this might be a way to facilitate that. And by the way, this is just an image that I created in Google Slides and just exported it as an image and added it to my Jamboard on here. So pretty simple if you know how to use slides.
Perfect, awesome. So yeah, so we just wanted to give you some examples of like different applications that you can. By applications, I mean like ways to apply Jamboard. There are a lot of different ideas on how you could use the tool. And so although the possibilities are endless, right? I think some people just added on these extra ones. No worries, that's okay. You're just gonna stay there blank. I'm actually gonna go back to our presentation now. I still see a lot of people playing in different areas. That's okay, no worries. But I am gonna give you a little bit more information. So if I can get you all to close this tab or just go back to your Meet tab, so then we can get back to our last point before we wrap this up. And so we had already gotten some, and then maybe we can take a look at those questions, see if there are any last questions. But on slide number 19, again, back at the training Google Slides, the slide deck, toward the end on page 19, we added some resources. And so if you're looking for some more information or just some tools and resources, we put these together. This bottom one is from Google. They have a teacher center with a lot of different like training, and they have like a discussion forum. If you have any questions, like you can go there. On this last one, this middle one are math examples that are from your friendly neighborhood math TOSA. Whoop, whoop, Kim. Kudos to Kim. She made a couple of examples, with one with a game, a Make 10 game, and then this jam, the second jam that she made was just some ideas on how to integrate teaching Eureka through Jamboard. And so if you're interested, you can click on either one of these and it'll get you a copy of...
It's a forced copy, yes.
Yeah, it'll force you to make a copy of her examples. And then if you wanted these slides that you all got, right? This one where we spent a lot of time. Yeah, if you just want them the way that I had them at the beginning, because right now, as you can see, there's writing all over them. Like we've added some slides. If you want them a fresh copy, right? A clean copy of them, you can get a copy of those and with a link that says training frames. And so that's a clean copy. Again, it'll force you to make a copy so that you have those. And then I also made, compiled a bunch of different, like I would think of as templates. And so if you click on Jamboard templates and the first link, it's going to take you to a forced copy of this jam that I made. And on this jam, there are just a bunch of generic templates because, I mean, although not difficult, it would take some time to make 26 little Post-it notes with individual letters inside of them. And so we just thought we'd save you some time there. This template in frame number 1 is both upper and lowercase letters. There's a template for just uppercase letters, a template for lowercase letters. I've seen some teachers use this as like practice for handwriting, right? And so you could do this for print practice. You could do this for practicing cursive on page 5 or frame 5, I should say. Here are some sorting activities, right, with word families on frame 6. And then if you want to use the idea of having Post-it notes ready to go so that students don't have to make their own, I included frame 7 and 8 with just numbered Post-it notes. You can keep them numbered if like you have maybe class numbers. I know some teachers do that. And then this is an easy way to do it, right? All the students have a number. Oh, this one's wrong. Dun, dun, dun. Fixed. So then that way students aren't spending time making their own Post-it. They're not stacking on top of each other. And so if you ever want to use this template, you can leave them as numbers, or once you make your copy, you can go into the sticky notes and change them to actual students' names, right? And so you're just going to have to change all these yourself if you want to change them to actual names for your students, or you can leave them as numbers. Frame 7 has 25 Post-its because I know there are classes with less than 25 students. And but I also included one up to 35. Man, I feel for those people with 35 students, but I included it in case you need it, and just so you have those templates and then you don't have to take the time to make these, right? So all those templates are there for you to make a copy of if you like them. And so I think with that,
yeah, I don't see any
we're gonna
more
check
questions
on
here that we haven't
questions.
answered. No, there might be a few specifics that we'll get back to, but it looks like unless any more questions are going to come in the next couple of a minute or so, that is it. That is all we have. Unless,
okay.
Josh, you have something you wanted to add?
Actually, before that, I was gonna do a quick little mention, just as a word. in case anybody's interested. Maybe if you want to know more about this, you can like drop into our office hours this afternoon from 1 to 3. But I know some people have mentioned that they've done some research themselves, and they've looked up Jams and Jamboard. And George mentioned at the very beginning that Jamboard is the physical equipment. It's a display, physical display. I just wanted to mention that, like, if you have that physical display, it has certain tools on it because it's a physical display. If you're using the web version of Jamboard, like we have been doing, right? This is all on the internet. We have certain tools available to us, right? These are the tools that are available to us. If, however, you're using a second device, I know a lot of teachers I've seen posts of teachers either using their phones or a tablet to help them with their lessons. What you could do is download the Jamboard app onto your second device, so your phone, your tablet, and then you can use the Jamboard app on that second device. Just a word of warning that the tools are slightly different. There are a couple of like added tools through the app. So if you do want to investigate and maybe use a secondary device, download the app, play with it a little bit. Feel free to come into office hours. But there are some like assistive tools, and you can upload from your Google Drive from the app only. So those things just aren't available on the web version yet. You never know, but right now they're just not.
And just remember that our students have touchscreens, so you know, they are some people, when they were doing their drawings, I could tell they were on their either a device like their iPad or iPhone, because they were a lot more precise. It was touchscreen. It's definitely harder for us as teachers that don't have a touchscreen to navigate on that. So if you know, as Celia said, that's a good idea, is to use, if you have a phone or an iPad, you know, use that so you can be more precise with your drawings. A couple of questions have come in. Can you drag post-it from one board to another?
You can't drag them from one to the other on the web app. That's kind of, if you actually were doing it on like a tablet, on like an iOS or Android app, you actually can. You can just, like, if I wanted to move this tree, I would just grab it, drag it over to the side, and it will switch it to the next frame. As you can see, I can't do that on the web app. So the only thing that I could do is if I wanted this tree somewhere else, I could copy it. And then if I want it on this next slide, I could just paste it in. But you're not, I mean, the one that's on frame number 12 is still there, right? I'm not, like, I just copied and pasted it. So you're going to have to do that manually. There's no way to like automatically do that, but you can. I mean, you can just copy and paste it over to wherever you want it.
That is it.
Okay.
Thank you for those of you that have you know, added comments, and just kudos to our live stream forum on here. We appreciate that. We know that how tough this is, and it's tough for us and it's tough for you, but thank you. We appreciate your support on that. We'll continue to be here for you.
All right, so I think we're gonna end it off to Josh.
Yep.
Okay, folks, I just want to say, like, I love that this is just one of my favorite tools. Like right here, look at that. That is creative play and learning. You know, if you know anything about me, you know that my entire classroom time, even when I was a para, was as a middle school teacher. And this doesn't look fun in middle school, but it looks really fun in primary. And I understand some of you are in with George, like, this is just chaos and just it's high blood pressure. So thank you, George and Celia. But it is, I think, the fact that it's this creative play tool, and you know, again, when we decided to do touchscreen Chromebooks, which might have been a little bit more expensive, it was stuff like this that we were looking forward to. We hope that this kind of puts that last puzzle piece on things I need to be able to do, whether we're synchronous, live meeting with the kids in person, or asynchronous. There are some other questions, but they seem some really specific, so we'll get back to you in email, or like George and Sylvia said, please join them this afternoon in Google Meet office hours, the live office hours. That would be great. Thank you so much for all that you do, and even in the live stream questions, we've already gotten some things. The gratitude and the awesomeness of our teachers is absolutely beyond question. And as I say every time we end Livestream PD, be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and be good to our kids. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great weekend, and happy early Mother's Day. Bye-bye.